welcome back. I've got Gene Slade on the line. Gene, how are you?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I am awesome. Really looking forward to this conversation. And right now everyone's talking about AI and all kinds of different things, but the work that you do definitely caught my eye, and I wanted to get you on the show to have a conversation about it. So for people that don't know who you are, I want you to share a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into the conversation.
Well, first off, I'm super grateful to be on the platform. So, really appreciate that first and foremost. You know, Mike, I grew up in the trades. My father owned an air conditioning company, a very small family owned air conditioning company. My uncle, the same with a plumbing company. And when I was 11, my dad said, "Boy, if you want food, you want clothes, come to work." So I did. Around the time I was 15, I was a qualified lead installer. So my dad decided to buy a second truck for the company, stick me in it, and have me go out and run jobs. So he hired a 21-year-old to drive me around as a helper, and we ended up having a two-truck company at that point. Ended up going off to wrestle at University of Tennessee, came back to the trades as most people do, and ended up in sales eventually. Later on, owned my own air conditioning company, won a bunch of awards for that, and we exited that company 6 years and one day after we started it from scratch. And then 6 months later, Lead Ninja was born, which is what I do now. So, and today we are one of the number one sales training organizations in the country for the trades, if not the number one. And then shortly, I'd say about a year ago, a little over a year ago, I became involved with a conversational AI, which is what we're here to talk about today, anyways. And I was watching a Facebook ad, and I saw this. You know how they can make lines like radio waves go across a screen when somebody's talking? So all I see are radio waves going across the screen. It caught my eye, and I was listening to this robot talk to a human and make a sale. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I dug further and deeper into it and realized that I could license this software from the software company and then utilize it for HVAC, electrical, plumbing, all kinds of service trades. So that's the 30,000 foot view, if you will, of my professional career.
Well, thank you for sharing the backstory on that. And excuse me, one of the things that it jumped out at me as you were talking there is one, you started off, in the trades, and I love, how your dad kind of said, well, if you want to eat and you want to have clothes, let's get you started. And that is, in my opinion anyway, and I'm sure in the opinion of a lot of people, I mean, that is, a really good sign of love. Tough love maybe, but love nonetheless, because like, look, we want to make sure that you figure out a way to provide for yourself, because our parents aren't going to be here forever, and it gave you the skills of the trade. And then of course, working with people, because when you're in the trades, you're usually dealing with people, especially if it's residential, but even commercial, you're working with people, so you're learning customer service skills and understanding the nuances of the business, inventory, supply chain, you name it. There's a
Right.
gambit of things of that. So you picked up all of that, and then of course, the discipline of wrestling at University of Tennessee. There's an element of discipline there as well.
Big time.
Because if you go in there just haphazard, well, the match is going to be over pretty quick. So you got to have a plan, a strategy, and all of that. So all of these things are building in, and then when you get back into it and you learn sales, and a lot of people that are fearful of sales, they're actually probably going to be really good at it, but there's just
Yeah.
this roadblock. I can't do that. But it's like, do you talk to people? Yeah. Do you help them out? Yeah. Do you give them advice and when you can? Yeah.
Right.
Well, you're checking all the boxes here, buddy. So
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't. They just have this like roadblock, kind of like fear of public speaking. It's like, oh, I can't do that. So, what do you talk to people? Yeah. Okay, well, that's part of it. Or you can be like me and just get chicken pox at 21 and overcome your fear. That's a long story. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you got lots of skills involved. And of course, that you took all of those tools that you picked up along the way and just continued using them going forward.
No, it's a fact. And you talk about that being the ultimate sign of love from my father. I think he just didn't want to go in the crawl spaces anymore myself. I'm pretty sure that was the reason.
Exactly. Child labor is the best labor, is what some
Mhm.
people have told me. There's laws against most of it, but there's certain things where it's like, well, you're littler. You'll be able to get in there a little bit easier. And you like crawling around anyway. You're adventurous. See what you find. You find anything in there neat, you can keep it. It's like, how about this rat? No, we're not keeping that.
Yep.
But, uh, but going to, kind of fast forwarding a little bit to, the work you're doing now, the sales generation and helping out those industries that historically, and this, are really, really good at what they do, but the marketing and promotion of their business and reaching out to customers, you can tell the ones that are decent and the ones that are just kind of
Yeah.
fumbling around with it. And it's not, unfortunately, it's not representative of what they are as an organization. But unfortunately, some people go, wow, their sales pitch isn't good, so they might not be good. No, they might be the best, plumbers or HVAC people on the planet, but they're not getting their story across. So I think that's where, your business really shines and helps them out with that. And then that discovery a little over a year ago about the AI side of things. Again, I looked at it in a lot of different ways, and one just for helping with reach out and finding people. But I'm a big maintenance guy. I'm
Yeah.
big on infrastructure. I'm good on. It's a lot cheaper, long run and short term, if you invest in your equipment and maintain it and keep it well, it will last longer.
Right.
I think about my parents, they had a home in Central Florida. So, Central air, and being in Central Florida, that is running a good chunk of the time. Well, their HVAC system at their house they lived in that house for 26 years. They replaced it, I think it was the 21st year that they were there. So
Wow.
long time. Why? Because dad maintained it, called in the local vendor to
Yep.
come in and service it a little bit more frequently than was quote unquote recommended. But he's like, I don't want to be hot. So
Right.
it was just one of those things where but he took the initiative on that. Most people don't. They don't even think about it. My air conditioning in the condo that I'm using or I'm in right now, working, not thinking about it. It's particularly warm here today, but I'm thankful I have it, but I'm not thinking about the maintenance or anything like that because the
Right.
condo company does all that. But long story short, using AI, and here's just one example that came to mind. Number one, it's like you have all of a sudden your entire inventory of all your customers and when their equipment was installed, the type of equipment, and all of that. And you also have it keeping track of how often you maintain certain machines, certain equipment, things
Right.
like that. So that way you can put that in a database and have it automatically generate out, okay, now is the right time based on our experience in repairing these things to get ahead of it. So you reach out to those customers automatically. You don't have to pick up the phone. You can use a chat bot or an automated voice thing to say, Mrs. Smith, it looks like that your HVAC system might be ready for maintenance. Press one and we'll connect you with an agent and we can line up that appointment right now. it, it's it, it just makes it so much easier. And what it does is it helps reduce the maintenance and actually from a customer benefit, it lowers their cost because if they wait and that thing breaks, it's going to cost a lot more than if
And
you're
and it
maintaining it. So I'd
keeps
love your
keeps
thoughts on
their
that.
energy costs low too. Right. And what you're talking about, Michael, was the very first vision that I had for the AI. I said, contractors typically, I'm stereotyping here, right? But they typically are not very good at outbounding to their existing customer base and booking maintenance appointments. They struggle. And there's the busy season and then the slow season. And in the slow season, by the time they get somebody up to speed, uh, being effective at outbound calling, um, the the season's picking back up again, so they don't need the leads, right? So it's this feast or famine. And I said, man, if I could just program my sales skills into this thing and start outbounding to their existing base, we can fill up their schedule. And so that was the first thing that we wanted to do with it and have done with it. So and it ties directly into the CRMs, whatever CRM they've got, we integrate it with that. So it'll look at the schedule and say, hey, I've got 20 appointments to fill, and it'll go and start calling customers. And the crazy thing is, I can call one customer or I can call 1,000 all at the same time. So if I need my board my technician's busy for the day, I can literally accomplish that in 5 or 10 minutes with a push of a button, something we've never been able to do before.
Yeah, and that's just it's amazing again because and I think about this all the time, and everyone's experienced it. Your air conditioning breaks down when it's 95 degrees outside, not when it's 27 degrees outside. So it breaks, like, oh. So you're
Yep.
calling, and everybody else that's having problems is calling too. It's kind of
At the
like
same
calling.
time.
It's like calling AAA for, a road repair, during a rainy storm or snowstorm or something like that. It's like
Yeah.
everybody's calling them. You might as well, pack a lunch because you're going to be there for a while. Same thing. It's like you're going to wait a bit. Where again, going back to the preventative maintenance, and I used to work in healthcare, and of course that is another industry where its customers don't show up until they're already sick.
Right.
They don't invest in doing stuff preventatively, and if they did, they wouldn't have to go to the doc so much. It's just a side note. I'm sure doctors don't want to hear that, but and until and side soapbox moment, until physicians are paid more for preventative than reactive, nothing will change. Okay, off the
Yeah.
soapbox. But back to again the variety of different things that AI can provide. That was a great example you just gave about you can literally have 1,000 calls go out at once, and you don't have a call center of 1,000 people. I mean, you could, but I mean, the labor cost and all that would and
Insane.
insane. I wouldn't even. It's this way again, leveraging AI. You can literally tailor the message based on the information that you have about that customer in your CRM to the point where it is like literally, I'm the local plumber. We're in a town of 2,000 people, and I know, 500 people. So I'm calling up the person and talking to them about some things so it gets that granular. And that's the beauty of this because when people feel like that they have been identified and some of their uniqueness is brought out and acknowledged, people like that. And it's a great system you had. And of course, now with AI and you blink and there's, 10,000 new ways to use it.
Yeah.
There's so many, it's, and I of course worked during the .com era and I saw, all the, positives that brought. I'm looking at this going, this is just mind blowing on, the opportunities that are here for organizations and trades, for example, that for
Yep.
years have struggled and now they don't have to.
Yeah, we can do the work of an entire outbound call center for about half the price of one employee now. And then on top of that, we answer the telephones as well. And you might think I've had people say, "Hey, I don't want to talk to a robot or something like that. I don't think it's a good idea." But 95% of the people that we do get on the telephone have no problem talking to it. And we actually announce up front, "Hey, just so you know, I'm an artificial intelligence that works for the company, right? And I can handle most of your questions. And if you don't want to talk to me, that's totally fine. But would it be all right if I was your first point of contact whenever you had a problem?" And 95% of people are saying, yeah, that's not a problem. 5%, the 5% that don't want to talk to it are typically above 70 years old as a client. And that's understandable. Different strokes for different folks. So, super, super exciting time in business to be able to essentially create an army of great salespeople. And they don't the AI doesn't need time off. It does. Every once in a while it will break and we got to fix it, right? But it doesn't need time off. It doesn't need sick pay. It doesn't argue. Never gets you into a lawsuit. Right? Really, really amazing technology. Super
Yeah.
stoked that we've been able to incorporate it into the trades.
Yeah, it's critically important. And again, it expands, just thinking about a smaller mom and pop type of organization, like, what your dad had,
Yeah.
and you drop this type of opportunity, all of a sudden, you're not just serving your local community, you could be serving your entire tri-county area, the
Yep.
state, national, international, depending on what that is, because of the leverage of all this power. And it reminds me, of a side story. Subscription service. They're not a sponsor, so I'm not going to mention their name unless they want to sponsor. They can, but I was calling because my contract was coming up, and I knew they had sent me a note and said, "Okay, the new rate is going to be this," and I'm like, "I don't want to pay that rate. I know that they can give me a better deal for that." So I called, and it was an AI agent that popped up. They said, "We're calling, and we understand that you were, looking to cancel, and we understand probably because of the significant rate increase. But if you want, and we don't have to talk to an agent today, we're going to offer you a rate of this, which was basically $1 more a month or something like that. If you're interested, we can set that up right now. Press a couple buttons, you'll be all set. You don't have to talk to anybody or wait on the line.
Yeah.
Beep, beep, thanks." And
Oh,
and I'm like, the best way to describe AI right now is it's doing what we wanted websites to do. Because you get on hold, it's like, did you know you could find most information on our website except what you really need? That's usually
yeah.
been the history of things.
Yeah.
Now with this, it's like it it, it cuts down the number of people that you need to be available to deal customer service things. But what that does though is it frees up those people to do other things that are the real revenue generating type of
Right.
things. And it makes such a huge difference. And for me, again, being a systems guy and infrastructure, I look at it and I just look at the opportunities of how businesses will just grow like crazy because of this. I know there's the fear, well, it's going to eliminate jobs. You know what? Every innovation has said that, and we have continued to create new jobs and opportunities for people. So what it does is it forces people to kind of get off the couch a little bit, paraphrasing, and actually take on some initiative of, okay, what's in demand right now? What skills can I learn? And there's zero excuse, people, on
Yeah.
not learning skill. Go to YouTube University. There. You can learn whatever the heck you want on there. So but again, I just look at this, and I going back, and my family was blue collar too. Most of them worked in the auto industry and all that, but I had cousins and people that worked in the trades and all that. I'm thinking about their businesses from decades ago, going, if they would have had access to this, wow,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have had to work as hard on something that they, quite frankly, weren't any good at. They could have focused on just doing what they do. And I think that's what your tool and leveraging the technology is really bringing about.
No,
So
I agree.
where do you see things? I know that's kind of it's silly to ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because 5 years ago, the pandemic was around the corner, and we certainly didn't see that. So, obviously, with AI and technology and all of that, where I guess maybe I should rephrase this. Maybe I should ask, where would you like things to be over the next couple of years in this world, as far as utilizing this technology and maybe even technologies we're not aware of yet to help the trades? What are some things you think are that still need to be addressed to help our fellow tradespeople out there?
That's a great question, man. So, where I would like to see this go is it doing things that human beings don't want to do. And one of the areas in sales that salespeople tend to hate is follow up, right? So, we leave so much money on the table in the trades because as salespeople in the trades, we're constantly spoon fed leads, right? Regular salespeople out there, for those of you that don't know, regular salespeople typically have to go get their own leads. But in the trades, we are constantly feeding you leads. And so people get lazy and they don't follow up. They just know they've got another meal coming the next day. So we're building a knowledge bank for this AI so that eventually we can make all of the follow up telephone conversations, handle all of the objections that maybe they wouldn't even give the salesperson while he was there because he wasn't good enough to get those objections out, and close the deals like we've been closing them on follow ups for years, right? So that's going to make a massive difference. I know that we'll be able to pick up at least another $1 million or much more in just about every single company that we would install this in, just from the follow up perspective. So I want to see it doing that. I also want to see it role playing with technicians. I want it to call them up in the morning And you know, there's GPS monitoring on all the trucks and stuff like that. So GPS tells the CRM that the guy's in his truck. CRM tells the AI. AI calls him up and role plays and trains with him for 10 or 15 minutes before he goes into the house. These are the types of things that I want to see developed and that we're working actively to develop. But it's in the future. You know, the technology is not quite there yet.
But eventually it will be, and it's going to be amazing for all these business, especially, you add seven figures to a business. I don't care what size your business is, that's going to make a huge impact on them, their community, the people that work for them, everything. It's exciting times indeed. So, Gene, I've loved this conversation. Where can people find out more about you and Lead Ninja Systems and all this other great work you're doing?
Well, you can go to the website Lead Ninja System if you want, or you can just look me up on social. It's Gene, GeneSlade. You should be able to find me pretty quickly there. And then I always give away my cell phone number. And my cell phone number is 239-848-6533. And people say, why do you give that away? Because that's why, you know, God created a block button on these phones. If I don't want to talk to you, I can block you, right? But I want to be accessible and there, and you know, I want to help people. So shoot me a text. That's the fastest way to reach me. And then after that, let's hop on the telephone call.
Awesome.
First one's free.
There you go. Awesome. And I'll definitely have that in the show notes. So, Gene, thanks so much for being on the show. Really appreciate you, and congratulations on the success. And I'm, really thrilled for all the businesses that are benefiting from, you helping them out and helping them grow, because it just makes our country better when small businesses can grow and do amazing things. So, really appreciate you. And thanks again for being on the show.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.